Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And in today's episode, the Phils, they lost the most predictable game of the year. But there's still work to be done. I'll tell you why on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. You may know me from some of my we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I've been messing up this intro lately. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on the radio at 97.5 The Fanatic for 5 years now, doing sports talk here in Philly. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 3 years, and this is my third year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies, helps you get notifications when new episodes are posted, so I'd appreciate it if you could do that. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. So go ahead and check them out. Today we're going to talk about the Phils dropping the hangover game last night, but it's time to lock back in, okay? You get the 1 day. Now it's time to zone back in. We'll talk about that in Game 3 of the series with the Chicago Cubs. And the playoff picture got super interesting last night with a lot of interesting moments. So we're going to take a look at what the Phillies should be focusing on outside of just themselves. And maybe not the Phillies themselves, but the Phillies players. But let's start with last night, folks, because last night was one of those games where what did Doc Rivers used to call it when he was the coach of the Sixers? Scheduled loss? Yeah. I would say that was one for the Philadelphia Phillies last night as they lose 10-4 to the Chicago Cubs. I have not at all this year cared less about a Philadelphia Phillies loss than I did the one last night. You win the NL East, you celebrate, you're out till like 4 a.m., popping bottles, drinking beers, champagne, everything. You wake up the next day to your alarm at probably like 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m., maybe 11. You'll have to sleep in a little bit. And and they tell you, hey, buddy, going out of the ballpark, you got a baseball game you got to play today. I mean, listen to this lineup that was trotted out by the Philadelphia Phillies the day after clinching their first division title in 13 years. You would think that Rob Thompson would give more starters a day off, but he said before the celebration, he's like, hey, we got a baseball game to play tomorrow. We're trying to lock down one of the top 2 seeds in the National League so that we have that first round bye. So be ready to play tomorrow. And the lineup read like this: Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Castellanos, Austin Hayes, who returned. We'll talk about that in a second. Garrett Stubbs gets the start for JT Realmuto. Rojas in center, Tanner Banks on the mound. I mean, that's basically a starting lineup for the Philadelphia Phillies short of JT Realmuto behind the dish. He said, get out there, boys. Find a way. And unfortunately, the Phillies didn't, which can you really blame them? I believe half of the lineup probably had a BAC that made it illegal for them to drive themselves to the ballpark yesterday. Obviously, I'm joking there, but they had a long night of partying. And they show up. And the funny thing is, it wasn't the offense. Like, Kyle Schwarber hit a home run, an absolute nuke. Bryce Harper hit a home run. They created offensive opportunities, the Philadelphia Phillies did, in spite of the celebration the night before. What really went wrong with the game was this pitching was abysmal. Tanner Banks had a nice first inning, and then he loads the bases in the second after getting into some major trouble. Taijuan Walker comes in, and then you had Colby Allard eat up some of the middle innings. Now, the good news for the Philadelphia Phillies is they pitched Tanner Banks, Taijuan Walker, Colby Allard, and Tyler Gilbert. So you didn't use any of like your big-time high-leverage arms for this game. The pitcher was just going to go out there and wear it, boys. But Banks gave up 3 earned. Walker gave up 3 earned. Allard gave up 4 earned. And you just say, well, yeah, that's what happens when you throw these bottom-of-the-barrel arms that you have on the team. I think Tanner Banks is better than that. I think he got hosed because Jose Alvarado gave up 3 earned and didn't get out of a bases-loaded jam. Not that you fully expect somebody who has transitioned to a reliever recently to do that, so I'm going to take it relatively easy on Taijuan Walker, even though let's bring this up real quick since he was on the mound. My goodness, has he been bad. His numbers this year. Taijuan Walker has a 7.10 ERA. The last time that a pitcher in Phillies history has pitched a minimum of 80 innings and had a season ERA over 7 was Hal Elliott in 1930 when he had an 8.05 ERA. Then it was Claude Willoughby with an 8 in 1930. Les Sweetland with a 7.78 in 1930. 1930 Phillies, rough year. Luther Roy, 8.22 in 1929. And Art Decatur, 7.32 in 1927. So since World War II, nobody has had a minimum of 80 innings and as bad of an ERA as Taijuan Walker. Sorry, buddy, but that's just miserable. For the first time in like nearly 100 years, yeah, that's all you need to hear about that. But bottom line is, I don't think any of those guys besides Tanner Banks are in the postseason plans. And Tanner Banks would be a specific matchup in a lower leverage spot of the game than guys like Alvarado, Strong, Hoffman. I almost called him Strothman and combined those two. Orion Kirkring, Carlos Estevez, guys like that you will see in significantly higher leverage situations than Tanner Banks. I do just think he's usable. The other guys like Allard and Phillips and Walker, I mean, you're not going to see those guys throw. They're just not. That's not what you're going to see from the Philadelphia Phillies in the postseason. Now, Austin Hayes got back, and he played yesterday. He's back from his kidney infection, which was great to see. Like, that has been a bit of a scary situation for him. And he said, I forget if it was before or after the game yesterday. I saw the quote online, but basically, he's back to feeling like Austin Hayes again. And you might say, why in the world do we care about Austin Hayes? What difference does he make to the ceiling of this team? How does he balance out this? Like, why should we care? He's not a star player on this team. He's probably like one of the last guys on the roster right now. I understand why people feel that way because he hasn't been insanely productive as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. But let me tell you why he's important, right? Because Brandon Marsh has had struggles offensively this year. Johan Rojas has had struggles offensively this year. Both of those guys have also had plus moments, but they're not great offensive players. You have one of those guys in right field where I believe Nick Castellanos is a great offensive player. He's streaky, but he's talented. And the problem since Hayes went down was in left field, you either had Marsh or Rojas. Well, Rojas only plays center. So Marsh or the rotating door of minor league players. Austin Hayes is a bona fide major league player that was with the Baltimore Orioles last year and this year when you traded for him. So he's been with a winning organization. He's a guy that goes out there and adds balance to the lineup. It's the one position where you feel like you're forcing somebody when Austin Hayes is not available. When he's not available to play, when he was dealing with that kidney issue, you're like, well, we'd like Brandon Marsh and Rojas to platoon in center. We got to start one of them in left, or we got to start a minor league guy because we have to because we don't have anybody else. Now it's Dave Dombrowski acquired Austin Hayes to play left field. He plays left. Rojas and Marsh split time in center based on the matchup on the mound. Perfect. Castellanos in right. Harper at first. Stott at second. Turner at short. Bohm at third. Whoever on the mound. JT behind the dish. Edmundo Sosa is one of your big bats coming off the bench. Like Kyle Schwarber obviously DHing. You have just the lineup that flows really, really well, where you know that Austin Hayes can put together professional at-bats down near the bottom of it. If your eighth hitter in the lineup is now Austin Hayes, or seventh hitter in the lineup is now Austin Hayes, as opposed to like Cal Stevenson or Buddy Kennedy or Weston Wilson, or even really Cody Clemens, who I know a lot of people like Cody Clemens. I don't blame you. That's a great thing to have back. So I'm glad mostly that Austin Hayes is healthy as a person. He's back to feeling like himself because kidney infection, that's not your typical, hey, I got a hangnail, I can't pitch for 2 days. Like, no, that was something serious. He gets back just in time for the postseason run. We'll see if they play him through. That's a tough thing. You kind of have to balance, like, not rushing him back, but also to playing him in as many as these final 4 games the Phillies have as possible so that you feel good about putting him in a postseason lineup. If the season ended today, the Phillies probably wouldn't feel great about it, I'd imagine, just because he hasn't seen live pitching in a while. But to have him back in your full complement of players. I mean, you basically have everybody that you expected to have. The one guy that you didn't quite get back or you haven't quite gotten back yet is Spencer Turnbull. And once you do, he's not going to be ready to start or anything. He may go to the bullpen. He may be a guy that, like, if you win in the NLDS, he gets activated for the NLCS. He's a low leverage bullpen guy, and maybe he could be a high upside guy in that spot. But outside of that, Phils are healthy. Phils are ready. Phils are, I was going to say rolling, but they haven't really been. And that's what we're going to talk about coming up next. How do they get back rolling? Because you have 4 games. The magic number is 2 for the first round bye. And I don't want to see them mess around. We've talked about this multiple times. Stop wasting time. Last night, I mean, come on, I can't blame them. Come on. Like, seriously, they are in a situation where they had just clinched their first division title in 13 years. But guess what? That was last night. Today, 6:05, as long as they get the game in with this rain coming through, which hopefully they do, you got to take care of business. And we'll talk about it next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Booking.com first, though, because the Phillies, they're going to be traveling soon. They're in the postseason. Maybe you want to go catch one of those games. Well, there is nothing that makes you, or helps you, I should say, explore those U.S. cities that you always secretly want to learn more about, like other baseball cities, the way that Booking.com does. You can go to the website. You can go to the Booking.com app. You can check it out, and you can book a trip that helps you. Well, let's see. What could you do? Well, it could be time to taste test your baseball competition stadium cuisine. You could go to an away postseason game when the Phillies do eventually play those. Well, luckily on Booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's right for you. They have a wide variety of choice across the United States. So you can go incognito to all your baseball rival cities, or in the postseason, because you're a fan of the Phillies, who could still be the top seed in all of baseball, you could go very, I don't know what the opposite of incognito is, very cognito. They can know you're from Philadelphia. Bottom line is Booking.com is awesome. They're the number one way to book your vacations. They got everything you need to book the perfect stay no matter what rival city you're going to. So check it out today, Booking.com, the website, or on the Booking.com app. Let's discuss FanDuel as well, America's #1 sports book. You know FanDuel. You love FanDuel. We've been talking about FanDuel for absolute years because they're the best. And football season's rolling. I mean, it's Wednesday, but tomorrow, Thursday, week 4 of the NFL season kicks off. And you might not get a good feel right now for what these teams are. But in the middle of the game, sometimes you get a hunch. And when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets with FanDuel. That way, when you're placing those live bets, when you say, oh, this team's got momentum, let me hop on my app and go there and take them. Oh, wow, they're getting that many points right now? Heck yeah, I'm taking this team. You'll be more informed because of all the information FanDuel has on that page on their app. Plus, you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet with FanDuel. You can go ahead and get $200 bonus bets. You know what that says to me? A great opportunity to make a lot of cash. Take some flyers, make some safe ones, make that money back on just placing your first $5 bet. It's easy. That's FanDuel.com to take advantage of America's #1 sportsbook. All right, let's discuss game 3 of this series with the Chicago Cubs because it's time to absolutely lock in on a top 2 seed in the National League. The Brewers beat the Pittsburgh Pirates yesterday. By the way, Pirates, major messed up move. Rowdy Tellez was just DFA'd by the Pirates. He was 4 plate appearances away from the $200,000 bonus. The Pirates have 6 games left in their season. They have been eliminated from postseason contention, and they just sent a guy down. They just DFA'd a guy that played with them all year because they don't want to pay him the $200,000 bonus in his contract. Like, soft poverty move by the Pittsburgh Pirates. Just had to throw that in there because I mentioned them. But the Brewers took down the Pirates last night, and that means that the Phillies' magic number is still at 2. You've got to win 1, and the Brewers have to lose 1. Or you have to win 2, and then it doesn't matter what the Brewers did. And you still have time. Like, you should be able to beat the Nationals next series in your sleep. But you'd like to take care of as much as you can because the Dodgers lost last night. Oh my God. Like we'll talk about in the final segment, the playoff picture getting interesting. So I'll talk about it then, but a huge play in the Dodgers Padres game last night. And all of this does affect the Phillies. You might be like, I thought this was a lot on Phillies. It affects the seeding. We have 4 more games left. You could bear with me for a couple of episodes of looking around baseball and how it affects the Phillies, right? But let's bring it back to the city of brotherly love and the Philadelphia Fighting Phils, who will take on the Cubs tonight in Game 3 of this series. And it's hard to draw like any conclusions from the first couple games. Game 1, the Phillies beat the absolute brakes off them with the division on the line. There was clearly a motivated team. You got a great start from Aaron Nola. Everything was perfect. And Game 2 was a hangover game where you threw a reliever and then one of the worst pitchers in 100 years for your team. So, yeah, now we're kind of back to the regular setting of baseball. And Christopher Sanchez will take the mound tonight for the Philadelphia Phillies at Citizens Bank Park. He's been really, really good this year. And this is important for Christopher Sanchez because there is a pretty good chance that this is the last time we see him in the regular season. I don't think there's any way it's not, right? He goes out there and makes the start, and then he's done. Is he a guy that you're going to be looking at in the postseason saying, wow, he needs to get the ball third? He needs to get the ball maybe even second? No, I don't think second's going to happen. I think that'd be insane to throw him over Zach Wheeler or Aaron Nola. And Wheeler obviously is going to get the ball first. But he is auditioning one more time for a postseason role with this team. Remember, he started 1 game last year in the postseason. After a strong 2023 season, he got that 1 inning's worth of work in Arizona in game 5 out there. And it was just like, okay, that's all I'm going to get. It's more than Taijuan Walker got. But now he's had such a strong year with a 11-9 record, a 3.25 ERA, 1.24 WHIP, and 149 strikeouts and 177 innings pitched. Not heavy on the strikeouts, but a lot of ground ball outs all year long for Christopher Sanchez. We know how good he's been. He's looking at the Phillies and saying, hey, y'all better pitch me in the postseason this year because I've been darn good. And the Phillies are looking at him saying, well, we haven't seen Ranger Suarez be at his best at this moment in time. We need 3 good pitchers for tight series. Okay, yeah, let's go. Chris, show us you deserve it. This is his last chance to go out there and shove. So I think he's a motivated pitcher tonight going out on that mound saying, I'm ready for October. I want my moment. I want spotlight. I want Christopher Sanchez to be listed as a starter in a postseason game more than just in name only and more than just as like an opening type of guy. So that's a benefit for the Philadelphia Phillies. They'll face Javier Assad, though, who has a 3.34 ERA this year and a 7.5 record for the Cubs. He's been pretty darn good. He's another one of those guys, though. Not a huge strikeout guy, just like Sanchez. And 142 and 2/3 innings pitched. Assad, the righty, has struck out 121. He's also walked 60, so you can be a little bit patient on him. He's given up 17 home runs. That won't kill him. I mean, he's a solid pitcher, but he just doesn't have like the plus strikeout stuff that you see so many places in today's game. What that means is he probably plays a little bit better into the matchup for the Philadelphia Phillies. We don't have the lineup yet for the Chicago Cubs for whatever reason, but the Phillies lineup is out, and it will be basically your starting lineup that you're used to seeing with one slight alteration. Kyle Schwarber's batting leadoff, DHing. Trey Turner is batting second, playing shortstop. Bryce Harper batting third, playing first base. No surprises there. Nick Castellanos batting cleanup, playing right field. That's a little hint as to who's not in the lineup. Bryce Stoddle bat fifth and play second. Real Muto back behind the dish, batting sixth and obviously catching. Brandon Marsh is in center today, and he is batting seventh. Austin Hayes bats ninth and plays left field. You might say, who's batting eighth? It is not Alec Boehm at third base. Cody Clemens gets the start at third base. Alec gets a day off, which, fine, you should still be able to win this game. Now, none of these guys have seen Javier Assad more than 4 times in their career. Bryce Harper is 3 for 4 against them, which is a great sign. But this is a low level of data type of matchup for the Philadelphia Phillies. I was trying to think about how I wanted to say that. This is a guy you haven't seen very much. So is that a worry for the Philadelphia Phillies? I wouldn't think so. That's more of a danger against guys who strike out a bunch of dudes. I think the Philadelphia Phillies significantly cut down on the strikeouts tonight, put together a performance much more like Monday night when they clinched the division. The Phils are minus Monday night? Yeah, today's Wednesday. Phils are minus 190 favorites on the money line. They open as minus 180 favorites if you're a betting person. That will show you that the money is coming in on the Philadelphia Phillies. The odds are moving more in their favor. So betting public, Vegas, all feel confident that the Phillies are going to win. ESPN Analytics predictor says the Phillies have a 59.7% chance to win tonight. This is about as comfortable as it gets. Go out there, play your normal baseball game against the Cubs. The Cubs will give you a game, but like you saw even last night, they had moments where it was like, what is this team even still doing? It was just you had 3 pitchers on the mound that gave up 3 or more earned runs, and any major league team is going to beat that. Even the Chicago White Sox, well, maybe not the Chicago White Sox. Sorry for the ricochet shot there, Locked On White Sox. But you can get to a spot tonight where you look significantly better as a baseball team, and you can even clinch the first round bye as early as this evening if Milwaukee loses to Pittsburgh. So opportunity abounds for the Philadelphia Phillies tonight. And if they win tonight, all they need is 1 out of 3 down in Washington for that first round bye. Easy work, light work. Now, if you have to go into Washington, you have to win that last series of the year. And Washington knows that, and they're a little motivated to come after you. I'm not worried about the Washington Nationals, but that's kind of one of those strange baseball things are bound to happen type of scenario. Yeah, take care of the Cubs tonight. Go win one in Washington, sit everybody down, maybe give me a little bit of a start in one of those later games, and then we'll be good to go. But that's what's at stake tonight. Coming up, I do want to take a peek at the playoff picture, though, because some interesting stuff happened last night, and it is getting tight in the National League. We'll discuss that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about game time first, though, because game time is the absolute best for everything, not just postseason baseball. No, for football, basketball, and hockey starting soon, comedy, concerts, theater, any of that you have, well, guess what? Game Time's the number one place to get last-minute tickets, early tickets, anytime tickets. Go to Game Time. They're the best place to just get tickets, period. I mean, listen to this. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I mean, there's some super deals on the app, especially with baseball postseason rolling around. You're going to see some great opportunities for Game Time where they have boosts and different zone deals and things like that. So go ahead and keep an eye on that. But of course, you still get everything that comes with the Game Time experience, which means you're going to get the view from your seat before you buy it. So you know where you're going to be watching those big postseason home runs from. You get the all-in pricing up front, so you don't get smacked with those fees last second. You know what you're paying from the front of the transaction. You also get some of the best guarantee in the business, the Game Time guarantee, 110% of the difference if you find seats in the same row and section for less. And they have a great customer service team that makes sure to help you out with everything you need along the way, if anything's needed with the Game Time ticket coverage. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply, but create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Okay, the National League playoff picture. It's getting interesting. And speaking of, I want to thank you for listening to Locked On Phillies today. Now make your next listen Locked On MLB, the Locked On MLB podcast hosted by Paul Francis Sullivan. You can call him Sully. Gives you an overview of everything going on around baseball, as we're going to do like a light bit of in this final segment. But still check out Sully's work for a deeper dive into some of the big plays and big moments around baseball from that yesterday and yesterday evening. I believe we had some day games yesterday. But see, Sully would be able to tell you that. It's available on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, the National League had some interesting moments last night, but maybe one of the crazier triple plays that I've ever seen. And not because the play was insane. The triple plays are rarely not insane, but it wasn't anything more than a tailor-made, if that exists, triple play. But the moment was incredible. So the Dodgers are playing the Padres right now at Chavez Ravine out there at Dodger Stadium. The Padres are now, after the win last night, only 2 games back of the Dodgers. We said yesterday they were 3 games back going into that 3-game series. They could be even, and they have the season series. Could you imagine if the Dodgers don't even win their division? How would the Padres look compared? Well, the postseason would look tougher. Plus, we know the Brewers won to tighten up on the Phillies, who lost. So the top 2 teams lost. The next 2 teams won. And in San Diego, they were losing their minds, I'm sure, over the way that game in LA ended. So here's the scenario. Runners on first and second. No outs. in the bottom of the ninth inning with the Dodgers obviously at the dish, a 2-run deficit in the game. So a 3-run home run would be a walk-off. Shohei Ohtani is on deck, a near guarantee that he's going to get an at-bat with enough runners on base that he will be able to hit a walk-off home run. This dude is putting together one of the great seasons of all time. But how do you beat the Dodgers? Don't let Shohei Ohtani beat you. He hits a ground ball, not Shohei, but the batter before Shohei. It's a ground ball to Machado at third. He turns a triple play to end the game with Shohei waiting in the wings, unable to do anything. That's nuts. That's postseason caliber baseball in September. Like, that's how you know it's the final week of the season. Those are the moments that, thank God, the Phillies don't have to go through heart attacks dealing with that right now because they played well enough and they've taken enough hold on their division. But yeah, you're looking at a situation where that feels incredible. It's got to for San Diego. Oh, by the way, in division, the Braves took down the Mets last night. The Braves are a game off the Mets. They're going to look at finding a way into the postseason still. There's a lot still to figure out. Who knows what's going on with the Diamondbacks that are a half game smudged in between both the Mets and the Braves. If the season ended today and you look at the wild card standings in the National League, San Diego would be in. No, they could jump LA for the division. The Mets would be in. Then you'd have the Diamondbacks by a half game over the Braves, but still, the Braves and Mets have 2 more games to play. And you know what's even crazier? We talked about weather just briefly a little bit, saying hopefully they get it in with the weather. It's a little bit drizzly up here in Philadelphia. It's raining like crazy down there in Atlanta. The hurricane's rolling in. They could get rained out the next 2 days. They could play a doubleheader on a proposed off day to wrap up who ends up finding their way into the postseason. This is bonkers, folks. If you're not following baseball right now, you're absolutely insane. This is some of the greatest stuff. And if the Phillies win tonight and the Brewers lose tonight, the Phils can sit back and enjoy all of it. But let's not get too caught up in watching what's going on with other teams. You got to see what's going on with the Philadelphia Phillies. And while they have the tiebreaker over the Brewers, you still are looking at the standings and saying, 2.5 games? That feels a little... You have 4 games left. You're probably still good, but it feels a little tight. I don't want anything crazy to happen. I don't want it to come down to the last day. I don't blame you on any of that. That's why you need to take advantage of the game tonight against the Cubs. I believe, I'm checking the weather now, and that the Phillies should be able to get this game in no problem. There might be light drizzles. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play outdoor pickup hoops tonight like I normally do on Wednesday nights, but I think baseball will be able to be played at the professional level in South Philadelphia this evening. I don't see anything that should cause that game to be rained out. And then the Phillies will head to Washington. And, we'll have to see if they get those games in with the hurricane coming up the East Coast. That could get a little bit tricky. Of course, it wouldn't be baseball season if there wasn't like a major hurricane that changes everything in the National League playoff picture and makes everything more difficult for the teams to complete the season. Just the beauty of strange things happening. How many years ago was it, too, where we had the wildfires and earthquakes and all kinds of stuff? It was like an apocalypse was happening. Baseball's always got to have something weird with the weather. What are you going to do? I've said it a lot of times about defending Philadelphia Phillies slumps and poor performances, but it also applies to crazy weather events and having to deal with doubleheaders. That's baseball, baby. It's part of the reason why you love the sport. But tonight, hopefully the reason why we love the sport is to see the Philadelphia Phillies clinch a first-round bye, and if not, at least put themselves on the doorstep by taking down the Cubs. You have something to play for. They have nothing to play for outside of pride. You should be able to take advantage of this situation, and you should be able to beat the Cubs tonight. So that's the focus on tomorrow's episode. We're going to jump into, I think the Phillies have an off day. I want to say they're off tomorrow, but the end of the season scheduling can always get a little bit weird. So give me a second here as my phone just completely turns off to figure out what the schedule is for the Philadelphia Phillies going forward. I don't even know. I believe they have an off day, and then I believe they round out Friday, Saturday, Sunday down in Washington against the Nationals. That would be the only thing that truly makes sense, and my phone has just completely died. So that's wonderful. We're going no targeting system, as I guess someone said to Luke Skywalker back in the OG Star Wars back in the day. Anyway. Yes, the Phillies, they want to be in good position going into that series against the Nationals. They want to be set up for a situation where they can clinch with just a simple 1 victory in game 1 and then rest, guys. I've said it so many times. Hopefully the Philadelphia Phillies will get it. My phone is just reloaded, so I just want to reconfirm that they do indeed have the off day that I believe that they have tomorrow, which would be nice for them to kind of rest and recuperate. And yes, they do indeed have the off day tomorrow. I was 99% sure, but we like to be 100% sure here on Locked On Phillies. I'll talk to you tomorrow about previewing that series with the Nationals and everything going on, continued in the NL playoff push, and also some scheduling stuff for what we're going to be getting into as the postseason draws, well, not nearer, is here. It's going to be awesome. Thank you so much for checking us out today on Locked On Phillies. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the YouTube. All that stuff really helps me out. It helps you get notifications when new episodes are posted. It's the number one way to say thank you for the content on Locked On Phillies if you enjoy what I do. And I really appreciate everyone who's done that already. Okay, well, that's all for today's episode. I'll talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.